and it is now called to order on Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Maeve, can you begin with our usual housekeeping?
Yes, of course. And I think we had a little typo in those talking points. This is August 20th, 2025, of course.
You are right. And I was just reading the script.
No, that's our mistake.
Thank you for
Apologies.
that correction.
Yes, so this legislative committee meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access, CCDA headquarters, located at 400 R Street, Suite 312 in Sacramento, California, 95811. Virtual attendees are in compliance with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Please remember to specify the following. If a state body member attends a meeting via teleconference from a remote location, they must disclose any individuals 18 years or older present in the room, as well as their relationship with them. The visual appearance of a member of the state body on camera may cease only when the appearance would be technologically impracticable. Public comment on matters not on the agenda is taken at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment on matters on the agenda will be heard as the commission takes up agenda items for discussion. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers who utilize translators to make public comment will be allotted no more than 6 minutes unless they utilize simultaneous translation equipment. CCDA is precluded from discussing matters not on the agenda. However, CCDA members may ask questions for clarification purposes. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The StreamText Live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak, and we will also give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting, at which time they can unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA staff, please press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. To use the raise hand function, please follow these steps. When using Zoom via web browser, first, click on the icon labeled Reactions in the toolbar on the bottom center of your screen. Second, after clicking Reactions, a new window will show up on your screen. At the bottom right of the screen, there will be a button labeled Raise Hand. When using Zoom via mobile device, first, click on the 3 sideways dots labeled More. The More option is in the toolbar on the bottom right of the screen. After clicking More, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen and press Raise Hand. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. If you are unable to utilize the chat function to alert the CCDA staff, please unmute yourself and request for permission to speak. If there are technical issues that impact the proceeding of the meeting, the body will take the following procedures. 1, stay calm and reassure. Communicate to all participants that technical issues have occurred and CCDA staff is working to resolve them. 2, backup communication. Alternative messaging will be sent to all participants through mass email communication from the CCDA staff, or participants may email the CCDA staff at ccda@dgs.ca.gov. 3, attempt technical reboot. CCDA staff will attempt to resolve technical issues. 4, adjourn meeting. If technical issues persist and compromise the meeting's purpose, the meeting will be adjourned and may be rescheduled if necessary.
Great, thank you, Maeve. We will now start with agenda item number 1 and do a roll call. So Maeve, would you please do a roll call for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. I will now proceed with our roll call. Commissioner Scott Lillibridge.
Present.
Commissioner Shapiro.
Present.
Commissioner Jackson,
Present.
Committee Member Ben Conway, Committee Member Okenfuss,
All right, thank you, Maeve. Thank you for doing the roll call. And now if there are any members, if there are any commissioners who would like to identify themselves that are on the line, please do so now.
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it doesn't appear that we have any other commissioners who'd like to identify themselves.
Okay, great. Now, if there are any members of the public that are present that would like to identify themselves, you don't have to, but if you would like to, raise your hand and please introduce yourself.
All right, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it doesn't appear that we have any hands raised in the chat at this time of public members.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of our April 30th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Oh, I apologize. It looks like
Excuse me?
we now have a hand raised.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I will ask the member of the public who has their hand raised to unmute so that they can introduce themselves.
This is Regina Brink with the California Council of the Blind.
Thank you.
Great, welcome. Thank you for attending. Okay, now we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of our April 30, 2025 meeting minutes. If everyone has had a chance to review those minutes, I'd like to hear if there are any questions. Any questions from our committee members?
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it appears that there is no indication of questions from our committee members.
Any questions from our members of our public?
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it appears that there's no questions from members of the public about this agenda item.
Okay, are there any, I don't believe there are any commissioners virtually on the call, and we have no attendees here in person. So if that is the case, I will ask you, Maeve, to take a roll to vote on the minutes.
All right, thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge.
Oh,
I will
excuse
now...
me, I'm sorry. We need to get a motion first. Thank you,
Oh.
April. We need to get a motion in a second.
Commissioner Shapiro moves that we accept the minutes as distributed.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Jacqueline Jackson seconds the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Now, Maeve, you can take a roll. Thank you.
Thank you, and my apologies. I'll now proceed with roll call for agenda item 1, agenda item 2. Commissioner Lillibridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarah Hand Shapiro,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson,
Aye.
Committee Member Ben Conway, Committee Member Okenfuss. And with that, the meeting minutes from April 30th, 2025 pass.
Great, thank you, Maeve. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 3. And this is the point in our agenda where any members of the public who would like to speak on any of the issues that are not on the agenda, if you would raise your hand, then we will call on you to give you your allotted time to speak on any items, once again, that are not on the agenda.
All right, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it looks like we have a public comment. I will ask that member of the public to unmute and identify themselves if they'd like to be identified.
Hello, my name is Keith Webb.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
I talked to one of the people at your facility today, and they asked me to speak in this. I am not very good at speaking, and I will try to keep it under the 3 minutes. Dear legislative body, thank you for letting me speak in front of you today. My name is Keith Webb, and I'm a disabled person with a developmental disability and physical mobility problems. For the last 3 to 5 years, I have tried through city and laws and education to have a business in Orange County to comply with ADA handicap regulations. They have not. For approximately the first 16 months of this business, they used a handicap parking area for a barbecued smoker. The city did make them finally move it after months of trying. Just so that you know, this is on a particularly city leased piece of property where the city uses 60+% of the property for parking. I did check back with the area and see that the company was blocking the access to the parking by putting 8-foot umbrellas lining around the hashed area of the parking area and allowing people to stand in the hashed parking area, overflowing, and these people would overflow into the handicap parking spot. Who would ever be able to pull in and park there and to lower a ramp or even to open a door? This was a very large problem to me, and I complained again and again where nothing would happen. The company would also store items in the hashed area. The company would also still and does have a container in this area that forces you to back onto a busy city street and not be able to make a 3-point turn. The company also has a state concessions contract that they would not allow me to use the ADA accessible route denoted by the last CASP report that was dated on 7/7 of 2025, and would not allow me to use the restrooms using an ADA accessible route and the only ADA accessible route. They also said the other ADA accessible route was not being used because it was an exit only, even though the CASP report denoted on state property that it must be a in and out route. I have been complaining to this company for now approximately 3 years. Now, because I am complaining in a public forum, even here, they will use it against me to get a harassment order that I have complained against the government and flown, we will say, quiet protest signs on public property. All of the protests I have done have been 100% under the First Amendment laws. I have not tried to disturb traffic. I have not tried to disturb anything. I've always been quiet when and wherever I have protested against this business. If I'm correct, this commission may be able to help me with legislation so that when someone complains about a handicap problem, access to private property and specifically state-owned, leased, rented property. If there's anything under item 6 that you could discuss about this or ask me questions, I am fully open as a disabled person. All I'm trying to do is have equal access so that I'm not stuck at home, so that I may see this beautiful state that we have, so that I may see the beautiful country that we have. Most people always let us, I don't want to say give us extras, because it's not, it's giving us equal access. Most companies, after you bring something up, they comply. But there are very few ways besides suing someone and having the money to sue someone to get equal access. That is all I have to say. And I thank you for listening to what I have to say for my access problems here in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making your issue known. And I would just encourage you to follow up with CCDA staff, and they'll help point you in the right direction. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to speak on a topic not on our agenda today?
Apologies, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. It appears that we have no other hands or indication in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Maeve. We'll move on to agenda item number 4 then, which is our CCDA's annual report to the legislature. And for that report, we'll turn it over to our executive director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. Good afternoon, everyone. This is April, and I'm happy to report that CCDA's 2024 annual report to the legislature is now live and released to the public. And you can find it on our website under the resources tab. We have a tab that says annual reports to the legislature. You can also contact CCDA if you contact you could start with our general mailbox, which is CCDA at, excuse me, yes, it's I'm sorry, CCDA at dgs.ca.gov. And also there, we can make the report available in alternate formats if you need that. And we can also send digital or printed copies to you. We also will plan to have some of them printed at all of our, public events and listening forums. And I just wanted to share some of the highlights. I am planning on giving a deeper dive of our annual report and our data at a future full commission meeting. And I also will be reporting, throughout the year on how we're utilizing our data towards, our goals of making sure that we create data-driven solutions in our outreach strategies and our programming strategies. So what we noticed this year was that the top 10 violations tended to occur, and the types of businesses were major retailers in the Los Angeles and Solano County areas. And so we are going to be engaging with the retail community to create a future retail-focused listening forum in response to that. We've also been in contact with our community partners in the Los Angeles area to talk with them about how we might best serve the retailers in their area to make sure that they're understanding the laws and understanding how to be accessible to people with disabilities and any support that they might need from CCDA. And as I said before, now that we have our data and research analyst, who I'm looking at right now, he's in the room with me on staff, I'll be able to pull throughout the year and give the commission more snapshots of just kind of more in real time how our data is being trended and how that becomes the annual report. And I will be giving a deeper dive into our annual report at a future meeting. So I look forward to sharing more about how our efforts to reach out to retail, particularly major retailers who have franchisees, can be supported by the commission through our program resources that already exist, or if we need to create new ones, and also through a future listening forum. Thank you.
Thank you, April. That is always a big accomplishment every year to finish that annual report. So thank you and for staff and all the work that you do putting that together. I'll ask for any comments that the legislative committee members that are attending online, if you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask, now's your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Lillibridge. This is Commissioner Shapiro. I do have one thought or question with respect to reaching out to retail. The regional section of the International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC, has a regional event in Monterey, usually annually in Monterey. I was wondering if we've ever considered reaching out to partner and potentially conduct a listening forum at the regional ICSC convention, where most of the major retailers will be represented, and we might be able to put together a program that would reach across to make these issues more front and center, and to also see what resources are available to help address them. So I was just wondering if we've ever had a conversation about that possibility.
Thank you, Commissioner Shapiro. We haven't thought about that possibility, so I'll follow up with you to see if we could facilitate an introduction so that I can reach out about that, because one of our outreach strategies is to go to pre-existing events such as conferences, to be able to reach the community we're trying to reach, as opposed to always having them come to us. So that would be wonderful. I'll follow up with you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that's a great idea. Any other comments from or questions from our legislative committee members? Hearing none, I'll open it up to any of our public attendees. If you have any questions regarding Executive Director Dawson's report with regards to the annual report, please raise your hand. You'll be called on.
And it doesn't appear that we have any hands raised or indication in the chat of any public comments on this agenda item.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 5. And we have Viet Vo with DGS Legislative Consultant that will do a presentation with an overview and discussion of our Office of Legislative Affairs.
Thank you, Commissioner.
There he is.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, everyone. So today I'll be going over, of course, our Office of Legislative Affairs housed at the Department of General Services. I'll also be going over our core functions as an office, how we work with the Commission on Disability Access, as well as other divisions, offices, and other commissions within the DGS umbrella. And of course, I'll transition later to our typical bill reporting after that. And I'll share my screen in just a second. Okay. All right, so this is our small and mighty staff of 6 right now. We have our Deputy Director, Matt Bender, Legislative Manager. So there are, of course, our management and higher ups in our office. Of course, they oversee all of our work, whether it's, which I'll go over in a bit. And then our 4 consultants, including me. So our consultants here at our Legislative Affairs Office are divided by assigned divisions, offices, and commissions within the DGS umbrella. And of course, I cover CCDA, as well as the Building Standards Commission, the Division of State Architect, and the Office of Public School Construction as well. And right now we have our legislative analyst that is vacant, but they will typically be doing work related to administrative issues within our office. All right, and going into the core functions and activities within the Office of Legislative Affairs. First, we are a liaison on behalf of DGS internal programs on legislative issues. So this includes any inquiries on from the legislature on behalf of, like, say, a constituent that has an issue that they brought up to the a member of the legislature. And, you know, it could range from something along the lines of a business not being compliant with accessibility laws, or perhaps the legislature might have received our annual report, the CCDA annual report, and has some questions about, you know, some targeted areas within that have some accessibility issues. You know, we'll work with April and Abigail and the rest of the CCDA on coming towards a resolution on those types of issues. We also, of course, you know, will be in charge with transmitting those annual reports and any other reports that CCDA or any other division, office, commission within DGS to the legislature, and of course field any questions from CCDA's end on any other commission, office, or division within DGS umbrella. And another core function of our role here at DGS is manage development of bill analyses, and these can include enrolled bill reports and short form analyses. So the legislature each year introduces about 2,000 pieces of legislation, and, you know, our job is to sift through all those all those bills and see which ones impact DGS and all the commissions, divisions, offices within DGS, and see which ones are directly or indirectly impacted. And then we'll produce a bill analysis indicating our stance, how this bill impacts DGS, and any fiscal problems or any fiscal notes that the bill may require of DGS. And we'll, of course, go through a internal routing process that eventually makes its way to the governor's office. These pieces of bill analyses and the enrolled bill report short form analyses are not shared with the public. These are considered the governor's private papers and are not subject to the Public Records Act. So these are internal non-disclosed documents that are given to the public. And to get into a little bit more detail on the enrolled bill report, this is essentially the final version of bill analyses. And I'll get into when we work on bill analyses versus when we work on enrolled bill reports when I go over the legislative calendar in a few slides. Additionally, we facilitate communication on bills with GovOps and the governor's office. So if there's, we're going through the process of our bill analyses and some issues come up or inquiries that come up from the governor's office or GovOps on their end, we'll try to work with them and, get our internal understanding of the bills corresponding with, CCDA over to GovOps through the analyses process and any other additional communication. Our office will be working as a liaison between GovOps and the governor's office. And then also we also provide technical assistance to Department of Finance, legislative staff, and policy and or fiscal committee staff. So if they have any questions regarding bills, and there's a tightrope that we can information that we can relay over to them. As I mentioned earlier, our bill analyses are private, so we can't provide our position over to these entities, especially the legislature. We aren't able to provide unofficial positions over to legislative staff and committee staff. However, we can work with them on letting them understand how our processes currently work, how bills could potentially impact DGS and entities under DGS, and we can provide some technical assistance in any questions that they have regarding legislation. We also are able to share our fiscal impact with the Department of Finance and fiscal committee staff as well. And then finally, something that we're working on right now is contacting all offices, divisions, and commissions underneath DGS on legislative proposals. So this year we have a focus on government efficiency. So right now we're soliciting any ideas that CCDA or any other entities under DGS have that have to do with creating greater government efficiencies within the state of California. And this will go through a internal process that's similar to what I'll share in a bit regarding our bill analyses, but it will go through an internal process that includes approval from the DGS director, approval from GovOps, and ultimately the governor's office will approve these legislative proposals. And if it goes through all those hoops, then eventually we will look for a author from the legislature to take on this proposal. And this is our routing process for bill analyses. So once a bill is introduced, this usually happens in the first quarter of the year, January and February. Of course, DGS will, our office will look at the impacts that these bills have on DGS. So we'll sift through those, like I mentioned, about 2,000 or so bills that are introduced each year and see which ones are impacting our office. And once we find a bill that's directly or indirectly impacts DGS or any of its entities, will assign it to a specific program, or sometimes, oftentimes, multiple programs within. So this year, I'll go over the legislation in a bit, but we're seeing some crossovers between Division of State Architects and CCDA. So at times, we'll have multiple divisions assigned under a particular bill. And once a bill is assigned to program, our office will receive that bill analysis, that initial bill analysis from those entities under DGS. And we'll do our own internal review process, which includes my review, our legislative manager, and our director's review. And then once we are done with that internal review within our office, we'll send it over to the DGS director for Ana Lasso, for her review and her approval. And once that's done, it'll go over to GovOps, and GovOps will eventually send that to the governor's office for their review as well. And oftentimes bills will be amended. So once bills are amended, it will go throughout this process again. So some of the bills that I'll be reporting on in a bit have gone through an amendment process several times. Probably the most I've seen, maybe upwards of like 8 or so times. So for one single bill, it'll go through this process that many times, if depending if the bill has substantively changed. And here's the key parts of the bill analyses. Of course, we'll do some of this in our end on the Office of Legislative Affairs. Sometimes we'll know the legislative history on some similar bills. Sometimes we'll be able to provide a short summary on our end, and mainly we'll rely on the expertise of CCDA and all other entities within DGS to provide the rest of the analysis portions. One of the key parts of the analysis that we rely on for CCDAs and all entities under DGS's expertise is the recommendation. So often we'll recommend a support, neutral, opposed position, and sometimes we'll suggest amendments to the bills as well. So those positions could include amendments. And then our fiscal impact is another key portion of the bill analyses. And like I said before, this information, just the fiscal impact information, is something that we're able to send over to the legislature. And this is due to the Appropriations Committee soliciting the impacts of bills fiscally from all state departments. So we rely on the expertise on CCDA and all other DGS entities to provide us that information. All right, and then finally, to end things here, I just wanted to go over the 2025 key legislative dates. So our workload really depends on what time of year it is within the legislature. So right in the beginning, we'll have a lot of the bills introduced. So, our office sifts through all those 2,000 or so bills that are introduced. We have some ways, through a tracking software that will have some bills that are easily flagged that, are obvious that they impact CCDA, but sometimes, we will rely on our programs themselves to, if they hear through word of mouth or through their end, some bills, we work together on determining if bills impact our the DGS umbrella. And going into, I would say around January to about around now, the August 29 deadline, as you see right there, this is a period where we're working on bill analyses, where getting our fiscal estimates and sending them over to the legislature. And that's the summary mainly of what we typically work on the policy side for bills during this period. And after that, the August 29 deadline, which is coming up next week, is the last day for fiscal committees to hear and report bills. Following this deadline, bills will be presented on the floor, and following if their passage, if they do pass the floor, they'll be going over to the next House for a final concurrence vote. And then if approved by the second House, it'll go over to the governor's office. And that's when we will work on the what I mentioned earlier, the enrolled bill report, or EBR. These are the final versions of the bill analyses. So everything after about August 29th next week, our shift will be into enrolled bill reports. And right now is probably the busiest season of the legislature. Following next week, which is the like I mentioned before, the last day for fiscal committees to meet and report bills. We're going to see some tight deadlines. September 5th is the last day for bills to be amended on the floor. September 12th is the last day for each House to pass bills. And following that, the governor has 30 days until October 12th, if a bill is passed in the legislature on that very last day, to sign or veto bills from 2025. And right now we're in the first year of the 2-year session. So what we will see is a lot of bills that I will be reporting on in a bit have not passed these deadlines already, as we see here. However, they're able to meet next year's, they're able to be alive next year and potentially could be moving forward in the next year. And these exact dates change every year. However, it's within the ballpark that these deadlines match maybe a few days, give or take, that we see here. And that's all I have for you today for our office overview. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Wow, thanks so much, Viet. That's a lot of work. The 2,000, I think you said 2,000 bills that you guys have to read through to see what kind of impact. That's job security, I guess, for you guys. I will open it up to our committee members. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask of Viet, now's your time to speak up.
Commissioner Lillibridge, there doesn't appear to be any commissioners in the chat in the Zoom who'd like to be heard on this matter.
Okay, then I'll open it up to members of the public that are with us today. If you have any questions or comments regarding this report, please raise your hand and Maeve will call on you.
And Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, it appears that we have a hand raised from a member of the public. So I'll go ahead and give that individual the floor and allow them to identify themselves if they'd like to.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruthie Goldcorn, No Barriers Disabled Access Consulting and Advocacy Services. I'm with Californians for Disability Rights on the Legislation Committee and the Legislation Negotiating Team. And I found out the hard way that AB 649 has been turned into a 2-year bill. We gave the Chambers of Commerce and CJAC, the tort reform organization created by Tobacco Road in the 70s to eliminate torts and class actions, not having anything to do with disability. We gave them what they've been asking for. We called their bluff. And we gave them what they were asking for, but with a whole bunch of guardrails on it for people with disabilities. What do you think is going to happen to the bill since they morphed it into a 2-year bill after it had been approved by the legislative bodies and then turned back? what do you think the situation will be with AB 649? Thank you.
We haven't caught quite to that section yet. We'll ask for any more comments about the actual presentation that Viet did for us, and then we will move on to our bill tracking item, which will be next, and then we'll ask you to repeat that question. So right now, we'd just like to get some comments on any of the presentation that Viet did for us.
Thank you
previously.
very much. Appreciate it.
You bet.
And with that, it appears that there are no other comments from members of the public about this agenda item.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on now to item 6, which is our legislative bill tracking. And Viet hopefully hasn't gone very far. He will now
Yeah, I'm right here.
continue and talk about the bills in front of us that affect disability access.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So, so to start off, I'm going to be going over some bills that affect CCDA indirectly and other state bodies as well. And then I'll go over to more of the disability access bills that we have. So first, SB 470 by Senator Laird. This one has to deal with the Bagley-Keene or Open Meeting Act. And what this bill will do is extend the repeal date authorizing conditions which a state body may hold a meeting by teleconference from January 1, 2026, extends that deadline to January 1, 2030. And this bill is pending in the Assembly Appropriations Committee in suspense. So in this suspense hearing, which will be happening next Friday. So we'll learn about the fate if this bill moves onto the floor or not next Friday. Next, we have AB 395 by Assemblymember Gabriel. This bill failed the policy committee deadline is a 2-year bill and requires state agencies to make every reasonable effort to avoid conducting a meeting, conference, or any other function on specified religious, cultural, or ancestral holidays, and establishes similar provisions for public institutions as well. So this will be dead for this year, but possible that it could continue next year. All right, next we have, of course, that Bill mentioned earlier, AB 649 by Assemblymember Lowenthal on disability access, construction-related accessibility claims. This bill failed its policy committee deadline and is a 2-year bill. The bill creates the Small Business Right to Cure program, which provides a business with 25 or fewer employees who receive a CASP inspection and correct all the violations as listed in the CASP report within 120 days from the date of the inspection, or 180 days as specified, provides those businesses a 6-year protection period from liability for statutory damages. Additionally, this bill requires CCDA to collect and report to the legislature information on the Small Business Right to Cure program, which sunsets on Jan 1, 2034. And then finally, we have 2 corresponding bills. First, I'll go over SB 84 NILO. Also has to do with the right to cure topic. And this bill, of course, also failed policy committee deadline and is a 2-year bill. This bill prohibits a construction-related accessibility claim for statutory damages from being initiated against a business owner with a threshold of 50 or fewer employees, unless that business owner has been served with a letter specifying each alleged violation, and the alleged violations have not been corrected within 120 days of service of that letter. And if that business owner corrects the alleged violations within the 120 days, they are not liable for statutory damages. This bill has the exact same language as the bill underneath, AB 780. And this bill, AB 7080, has gone less further within through the legislative process. So this bill, AB 780, isn't likely to be the one that's being pursued. next year if it is, if all it's pursued. But SB 84 is the more likely bill that will be pursued next year if it is pursued. And that's all the legislation I have for you today, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Viet. Now I'll ask for our legislative committee members present today. If you have any questions or comments for Viet on these bills, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lilbridge, it appears that we do not have any comments from commissioners on this agenda item.
Okay, so I'll open it back up to the public to talk about any of these bills. And I'm sorry, but I've forgotten the name of the person that commented before, but please, I do see a hand raised, so I think it's Ruthie. So why don't you ask your question again, please?
Thank you very much. Yes, Ruthie Goldcorn. Yeah, 84 rather, is not a bill that the disability community will support in any way. 649 is very controversial in the disability community, and as a consultant and an advocate and a legislative active partner with the disability community, no one is going to get what they want. And I want to make clear also that if anyone becomes injured because of a deviation, violation, or in any way a disabled access building standard is out of compliance, that's not included here. And people with disabilities, we are so vulnerable. It is very easy for us to become injured. If doors weigh 20, 25 pounds and they slap us around because somebody didn't bother getting the proper door closer or maintain a door closer, that's a very different situation. And so personal injuries that we sustain when there's a building standard violation is not part of the opportunity for quote unquote curing, and they don't get time. They have to address it straight away. And 649 has a lot more detail to it, and more protections for people with disabilities. But yes, it does protect the business community, which is why it's really controversial in the disability community. I'm sorry, but the Rehab Act is 50, the ADA is 35, California building standards are 50. It's not like no one knew, and claims just tell us has been disingenuous for the 30 years that I've been actively involved in this process. And for people to be upset or businesses to be upset is like I said, disingenuous at best. The other issue, of course, with the bill with 649 is that it does do away with Janke versus Lee. And Janke versus Lee was a gift that the business community was given. And I have a personal friend who sued a business and won. They appealed, he won. They appealed, he won. And they appealed and he won again. But then Janke versus Lee came down the pike and they appealed one more time and he lost. And so he has a $4 million judgment sitting over his head, because we know defense lawyers run up ridiculous amounts of fees. And that is the biggest chilling effect on representation for disabled access building standard violations that are decades old. And so we stand with the disability community. We hope that CCDA will stand with the disability community. And we understand that we have to give. We understand that. We don't like it, we don't want it, but if this is going to get us what we need and get where we need to go, which is compliance, 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 then that's the way that's going to have to go. And 649 is a much better bill. It is so much better language and well written than either of the other two. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Your passion shows through. Thank you very much for attending today. Any other comments or questions from the public on this particular item?
It does not appear that there is any indication in the chat of any additional comments on this agenda item.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maeve. So we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is a conversation regarding our new strategic planning effort. And with that, I'll turn that over to Executive Director April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Lillibridge. This is April. Well, I want to share that CCDA is in the midst of developing our new 5-year strategic plan that will guide us with our, mission, vision, and values, and give us an opportunity to decide how we want to best allocate our resources over the next 5 years and dedicate our time toward our mission. And so over the last several months of this meeting cycle this year, we've been soliciting feedback from our stakeholders in a couple of different ways. We formed what we tentatively called a design team, which was basically a microcosm of our stakeholders from different walks of life and professions. And we asked them to give us their feedback. So they met twice and gave us some feedback about where they would like to see CCDA's resources and direction head over the next 5 years. And they also will be called upon in the future as a group to let us know, who should be at the table in the future. Who are we? What are we? How are we living our mission? How are we reaching out to business owners or people with disabilities or levels of government that may not be at the table, and how can we either re-engage them or engage them for the first time? And we also have been going to each of our subcommittees to make sure that we're soliciting feedback from each of the subcommittees' unique lenses. And in the future, after our meeting season concludes, our formal meeting season, we are planning to host 2 summits, one for the business community and one for the disability community. And I want to share a little bit about the themes that have emerged from the conversations that we've had thus far. And if you don't have this handout, it's okay. It's publicly available, but in your packet, if you're a committee member or also on our website, we've started collecting some of the draft goals that could become part of our strategic plan. We want to emphasize that we really want the community to set the table for this, and so we're certainly not baking them, but we wanted to make sure that we were synthesizing in real time what we were seeing as some themes. And just some of the themes that have emerged so far to kind of guide the discussion with you all today is an interest in addressing misconceptions on disability access compliance and how we can foster a culture of proactivity with our education and engagement and data-driven insights. We also we've heard that you would all like, as a community, to develop CCDA to effectively implement legislative and statutory obligations. And we've heard a lot about the need to build more relationships with and between all CCDA stakeholders, and to continue to develop our resource capacity to respond to our various stakeholders. And so the legislative committee is very unique, and one of the reasons why we wanted Viet to sort of set the table for this and talk about kind of how the legislative committee sits within how CCDA sits within the larger state government administrative side, as well as the public facing side of what we do. Given what Viet said about how the legislative committee does not take, formal positions on legislation, but we can, educate our legislative partners on the impact of legislation to our stakeholders and give technical assistance. And over the last couple of years, since I've been here, and I know my predecessor was doing that as well, is we have had many of our legislative partners come to us if they've had, ideas for bills, or they've had, their constituencies have come to them, whether from the business community or the disability community, to talk about construction-related accessibility claims or website accessibility claims, to say, there's a lot of issues out there. How can we solve them so that people with disabilities can access businesses, access the websites, or access the brick and mortar stores in a more effective manner, or other type of business? And how can CCDA play a role in that? And so what we want to do today is we'd like to engage you in a mini SWOT analysis, which I'll facilitate. And how this is going to work is I'll guide you through the analysis, and Abigail is going to be taking notes, and all of the notes collected today will go to our consulting firm, who will then continue to develop draft goals. And then after this concludes, we will then go before our executive committee in October with sort of a more fully formed document, and sort of get some things finalized for our full commission meeting in October. And then in our full commission meeting on October, there will be, a larger facilitated discussion by our consulting group, who will guide us, one more time as a full commission, as well as the stakeholders who attend that meeting in our strategic planning. And then our hope is to have our strategic plan go before the executive committee, and then after anything is fine-tuned, it will go before the full commission for a vote in March. And of course, prior to all of that happening, we will have conducted our summits, as well as worked with our consulting firm and our design team to identify some of the gaps in any of our community outreach, to make sure that we're setting the table for this so that stakeholders who haven't traditionally been involved in the past can and will participate, and that we also, get all the voices in the room that we can. And so what I'm going to do is I'll start talking to the legislative committee first, and then after we kind of go through the SWOT analysis, we will then go to the formal public comment, and the other voices in the room that are not committee members will be able to weigh in. And again, this will go to our consulting firm, which will then take all of the feedback from all of our public meetings, all of our small group meetings, and all of our summits to help educate the committee, to educate the commission on some of the themes that are emerging, and help us develop that draft strategic plan document that will hopefully go before the commission in March of 2026. And so what I'd like to ask the legislative committee is, what are some of the strengths of our legislative committee? I know that many of you have talked to me about, well, if we don't take positions on bills, what are some of the other things that we can do, and what are some of the things we're already doing that gives us our strengths? And so I'm going to see if anyone has any comments about, what are some of the strengths of our legislative committee, thinking about, where we want to be and position ourselves over the next 5 years as a committee.
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I'll start. I think one of our strengths is that we have a diversity of viewpoints and experiences. So we have a lot of practical information and experience that we can offer in considering the effectiveness and impact of legislation.
Thank you. And just for accessibility purposes, you can see, if you can't see, I'll describe it. There is a document on the screen that says CCDA Legislative Committee SWOT Analysis, and it says strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in different squares. And as people give their opinion, Abigail is typing in real time, but I'll make sure that I repeat what's being typed. There are no other visuals. And this will all be, publicly available. So I heard diverse viewpoints and backgrounds. What are some other strengths of the legislative committee and your lens and the work we're doing?
I also said extensive experience in many of the areas being legislated. I think between all of us, we have quite a few years.
Absolutely. Extensive experience for sure.
I don't know if it's a strength of our committee, but I would say that the strength of our staff and our executive director, who helps immensely at guiding our commission as well as the subcommittees. So I think dedicated staff that comes alongside the committee members.
Dedicated staff, absolutely. Any other strengths before we move on to some weaknesses? Okay.
My
And
comment,
Maeve,
this is
let me
Commissioner.
know. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jackson. I apologize.
That's okay. I think one of our strengths is that we are willing to ask those tough questions and things that we need to make sure that we have the proper resources before we make decisions. We take that to the staff, and they do that research and bring it back to us so that we could be making knowledgeable suggestions for our constituents.
That's a good point. Willing to have the tough conversations and asking the questions during the meetings that get researched by staff, and then we can, better make sure that we're reaching our constituents and answering their questions and concerns.
Yes.
Any other strengths? Well, what about some of the weaknesses? And I know that weakness can sound like a negative word, but it could also be, areas to improve and areas of growth. One of the, I'll give a freebie out there. The fact that we don't take positions on legislation, I think, can be both a weakness and a strength. So it could be a weakness in that it's perceived as that we don't have a voice, but it's a strength because of the fact that if you are not seen as taking one side or another, you're able to be a part of bringing all the different points of view together to come up with creative solutions. And also, through the technical assistance to the legislature, we're able to have a positive impact on policy making to better, serve the people that we're meant to serve. So it could be both a strength and a weakness. Any others? Areas of improvement or things that we think are weakness or strength?
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I will put another one on the list. I think that we do not effectively communicate either in this committee or in the full commission on the avenues we do have available to us or how to utilize them to educate and inform. Whether that's legislators or other groups. I don't know that everyone in this committee or everyone in the full commission knows what we can do and how we can do it so as to feel the opportunity to contribute.
Thank you. That's really good feedback about, how can in these meetings we talk about what are the avenues available and how we can be a voice and be an effective voice from where we all sit with our different perspectives and lenses in this committee. Any other weaknesses or areas of improvement?
I'll speak up and say, I think we're somewhat limited in that we don't actually meet very often, and we are, pretty geographically diverse as far as where we're physically located. So there is something, in my opinion, maybe I'm old school, but there's something about being face to face and having that synergy when you are face to face. It's not to say it's not impossible, but I think we are kind of limited by the overall amount of opportunities to get together.
So fewer opportunities to get together and connect, not meeting as often, as well as, geographic challenges, not always being able to meet in person or come physically in one place.
And that's also, a function of Bagley Keene as well. We can't talk amongst ourselves unless it's in a public forum or it's a serial meeting. So that often can be a little bit confining in our discussions.
So finding ways to stay afloat of Bagley Keene while and because they don't always have to be mutually exclusive, finding ways to, creatively engage in ways that meet public meeting requirements. Any other weaknesses?
I believe that I would like to see our committee and our group actually meeting, if it's within Bagley Keene, meeting with legislators to have that communication so that they know who we are and that we could solve problems together if possible.
So finding ways for the committee to engage directly with legislators.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually agree with Commissioner Jackson on that. And actually, I thought of that as an opportunity, something that could be listed under the opportunity category as well. Some of these can
Please
be.
bring it up as an opportunity. It is. It could be both. Yes.
We'll definitely clean up this document too, because I could see how they could actually be both a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, and a threat. All of those things, depending on how you approach it. What about opportunities? Right. We already talked about an opportunity, which is, engaging with our legislators more directly, while working with within, the system that we just learned about from Viet. But, having further discussion about how individual commissioners what are the options for doing that, as well as what our system says we can and can't do, as well as, just in general, making sure that as an opportunity, we have a lot to give to the legislative community and how we can do that from our lens. Any other opportunities?
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I think that there are additional trade groups that we haven't connected with that would give us an opportunity, like the discussion of potentially having a listening forum at ICSC and at other groups that already are representing businesses where we know a great deal of issues arise. I think there's more opportunity for us to partner and educate and connect to increase access and information about accessibility requirements and how to meet them.
Absolutely, that there are opportunities to engage with groups that we haven't previously engaged with. Any other opportunities? Things that we're excited about that we could do? And this won't be your final pass at this. We are going to be doing several more, of these and bringing our consultant in at various points. So when we think about, we've talked about strengths and weaknesses and some opportunities, and we've talked about how a lot of these are intersectional and could be in many different categories. When we think about threats, we could also think about, sometimes it's like external things that are affecting our ability to do our work or other kind of constraints. It doesn't have to necessarily be a direct, the way you think of the word threat, but just things externally or internally that can affect our ability to meet what our mission is, and carry out our purpose as a committee. Any threats you can think of, or things that get in our stumbling blocks that get in our way?
The one thing that I think comes to mind for me is maybe not so much at the legislative committee level, but at the commission level is a constant threat of budget limitations on what we can do. Obviously, if we had a blank checkbook, we could change the world. But, you know, those limitations, again, are, you know, those are some of the ones that I think are ones we can kind of most readily identify is, you know, we only have so much that we can do. So making sure that we stay on top of those budget matters that we need to ensure that we can fulfill the mission.
So having a big mission on a small budget and and trying to think big, like we do have an unlimited budget, but also how we can utilize our resources to serve the people of California efficiently and appropriately with the big dreams that we have and the big goals that we have.
Well, and you know, and I'm just following up, you know, we want to be fiscally responsible too, but there is a potential threat that you know, the money could vanish, you know, or greatly be reduced. So that is something, as far as trying to achieve our mission, we have to keep our eyes open.
Paying attention to the budgetary environment of the state of California and how that could affect the future of our work.
Right. Being responsible for it.
Being responsible. Any other threats or things that get in our way? I think I'll throw one out there. This is April, and this is just kind of what I've heard is just kind of to my original point of you know, many there have been stakeholders that have shared with me that, you know, do we even need to have a legislative committee, or, you know, and that's a brave conversation. I'm not saying that's what comes out of this, but it sounds like there's a lot that we are doing that's valuable as a committee. Absolutely. I just wanted to throw that out there as the threat of obsolescence if we don't if we don't act with clarity about what our purpose is, as well as sort of to Commissioner Shapiro's point earlier, if we're not able to effectively, or if I'm not able to effectively show each of you how you can properly exercise the mechanisms that are available to you to make a difference on this committee and the specific purpose of this committee, you know, the threat of obsolescence of the committee and having a meeting just to have a meeting.
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I'll throw another one out, which I think, as you said, things go in different boxes. I think this one I would say is both a strength, and if we lose it, there's a threat. From the strength perspective, this subcommittee specifically and the full commission as a whole, we engage in respectful dialogue of what other people have perhaps perceived as diametrically opposed positions. And we stand for the proposition that the positions are not diametrically opposed. In fact, they can mesh together. So I think that the fact that we provide respectful dialogue and the opportunity to review and experience and listen to diverse positions is a strength. And the threat is that we need to guard very carefully against polarization or losing our safe environment for our respectful dialogue.
Yeah, I like what you said about in today's world being a model for that, for having open and respectful dialogue where, you know, we're all more alike than we're different. And sometimes views that can be spun as, like, as you said, diametrically opposed, actually there's things on each side to be vetted that are valuable to solve the issues. We're all trying to solve the issue and make the world more accessible to people with disabilities. As we wrap up, is there anything from the committee before I turn it back over to the chair to facilitate the public comment piece that you'd like to mention for any of these buckets for the SWOT analysis that we haven't brought up yet? All right, hearing none, just again, thank you so much for, engaging in this exercise, and thank you, Abigail, for helping, type it up and show it on the screen. What we're going to do is we're going to clean it up, and, it'll become a part of our, the public record of our committee meeting, and we are going to share it with our consulting firm who is helping us with our outreach strategy, and all of your feedback will become a part of how we develop our strategic plan over the next 5 years. And so this won't be the last time you hear about it, and you'll have more opportunities that I'll share publicly about how to engage. I encourage you all to, engage during your committee meetings, encourage stakeholders when there's opportunities to get involved in the strategic plan, let them know about any of the summits we advertise or any surveys we may put out in the future. Encourage those especially those who may not be at the table, to engage with us. And you could always reach out to me directly if you think there's a partnership that we're not pursuing, whether with an individual or a group. And I'm happy to, contact them and if you can facilitate an introduction, and I can bring them into this process. And so with that, I will turn it back to Chair Commissioner Lillibridge to lead us in the public comment portion of this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, April. I guess I have a question, and that is, assuming that each of the various subcommittees are doing the same SWOT analysis for their own committees, I'm assuming that we would also do this at the commission level or during a workshop session?
Yes, the idea for the October full commission meeting is to set aside time to have an actual working session, and we would like it to be guided by our consulting firm. And I can't publicly say who they are yet because we're finalizing the business side of it, but we have identified the consulting firm to guide us in the phase 2 outreach / final facilitation / writing the plan phase. And so the idea would be that they would guide this. We wanted to make sure that in between consulting firms that we didn't lose the momentum. So we wanted to keep these conversations going and be able to educate the consultant when they came on board. So that's the plan, is to utilize the remaining meetings of the year to be more working sessions.
Great. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
So with that, we'll open it up to members of the public that are here with us. If you have a comment on this agenda item, specifically our strategic planning effort in our SWOT analyses, whatever the case may be regarding this agenda item, please raise your hand and Maeve will call on you.
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, there appears to be no public members who'd like to comment on this agenda item.
Okay, great. And as our executive director mentioned, this isn't the first and last time we're going to be discussing our strategic planning efforts. So please, if you're following the commission's activities and the future either committees or commission hearings, please feel free to come back with your questions and your suggestions. They will be very helpful. So with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is exploring any future agenda items that we'd like to discuss. So I'll open that up first to our legislative committee members that are in attendance.
This is Commissioner Shapiro. I think it would be nice to have an agenda item on the process whereby we can educate or provide feedback to legislators. As I mentioned, I think we don't do that as well. And I think if the staff could prepare a presentation, perhaps with the assistance of the DGS liaison, on how we can lawfully and appropriately provide the education that we've said we can provide.
Thank you, Commissioner Shapiro. Yeah, and we have had that discussion several times about maybe even possibly engaging our legislative members on our commission and leveraging their membership and attendance at these and having that be a means by which we can extend our education and reach throughout the legislature. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Or suggested agenda items, I should say.
And with that, there appears to be no other additional comments from our commissioners on this agenda item.
Okay, then I'll ask our members of the public, if you have suggestions for any future agenda items, please raise your hand.
Chair Commissioner Lillibridge, there appears to be no indication in the chat of any public members.
Okay, great. Then with that, we will move on to our last item, and that is need a motion to adjourn our meeting for today and a second.
Commissioner Shapiro moves we adjourn our meeting.
Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson seconds.
Thank you. And Maeve, can you please call the roll?
Yes, I will now proceed with a roll call vote. Commissioner Lillibridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Shapiro,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Committee Member Conway, Committee Member Okenfuss. And with that, the motion to adjourn has passed.
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll see you next time.